welcome back to my channel. My name is Ayelet. I'm the mother of two. I have a son who just turned 3 and a daughter who is 15 months. On this channel, I share about Montessori, our home, respectful parenting, our homeschool journey, and all sorts of things like that. So today I'm talking about board games. Board games that we like to play with my 3-year-old. Again, he just turned 3. This is not all of them. I have more. It's a big stack. So I'm going to go through and talk about some of our favorites, what we enjoy when we've sort of introduced them. Most of them we got him for his 3rd birthday. So we got them a few weeks ago and he is loving them and we're loving playing together. But we have like a game some you can introduce earlier, so I'll talk about that. I'm going to jump in and talk about these games. I don't have a specific order other than the first one, which is going to be the game I recommend introducing first. But most of these games are good from 3+. Some you can do a little earlier, but that's all up to you and up to your child as well. As I said, we introduced nearly all of these when my son turned 3. And it's a mix of cooperative and competitive games, which we enjoy having the mix, but I'm going to start off and just jump right in and talk about what we like on each one and my feelings on all of them. So this is what I would recommend for a first game. This is called First Orchard, and this is by First Orchard. And this one is one of my very first game sets. So you can see somewhere on here that they recommend for 2+. So we started playing this with my son after he turned 2. He wasn't really ready at first, and then we added it more as my son got closer to like 2.5, 3. And we really, really enjoy this game. So this is a cooperative game. You are competing against this raven, and you are rolling, and it has a color matching aspect and rolling, and you are trying to get all the fruit harvested before the raven gets to the end of a path. So, as I said, it does do color matching. I think for my son, he definitely had mastered color matching far before he was ready for the game aspects of this game, but that's okay. It's still fun. I also find it does have a lot of math components, either that might be just sort of underlying, or you really can talk about them as well. So we talk about more, talk about less, which tree has more, which tree has less, count how many are left on each tree. So sort of to calculate that. So for example, if you get this basket, that means you can choose any color. The dice have, so the die has all the different colors, and if you usually roll it, and if you get a color, you take that one. But if you get the basket, you can choose whichever. But you want to take from the tree that has the most because you're trying to harvest them all. And if a tree is empty and you get that color, you skip the turn. So you're trying to do whichever one gets the most. So it has the most on the tree. So that's a way we sort of talked about math, but we also, even if you're not explicitly talking about it, that's something that a child will often notice and pick up on. So what we would on our turn, oh, I got the basket, how many are left in each of these, count them, do that sort of thing. So that's a way to practice some math in it as well. But the biggest thing for this game, what I love about it, is just that it practices taking turns, rolling a die, and all of those sorts of really simple things that as you get to some of these other games I have, these other games are a bit more complicated. They have some more rules. This one's so simple, and just working on taking turns, working on rolling the die, working on together losing or winning. I think that's an important one. That you can model, the raven won this time. Model it not being a big deal, because I feel really strongly games should not be some super competitive thing. Some of these games are competitive, some are cooperative, but either way, it's not about who wins. It doesn't matter at all. But you can model that. You can model, okay, the raven won, or you can model being a good sport when you win or lose as well. Like if you win too, oh cool, we did it. But not having to make a big deal about it either way, not being like, oh, we won, we beat you, Raven. I think there's a lot of good modeling that can be done through a game like this. So it's just super simple, super, super simple. They have a few other first games. We've tried one other, I didn't love it. I felt that this one is just the simplest. it's not fancy parts. It's not a whole like figuring it out. It's not a whole like story. It's simple and just a really, really good first game to introduce. There was one other game we introduced to my son before he was 2. Most of these were when he was turned 3, but one other game we introduced him, not before he was 2, sorry, before he was 3, when he was 2. And I'm gonna be honest here, I forgot to mention this one because it was behind me. So I'm recording this after. If it sounds weird in the spot it is, I am sorry. Guess in 10. So, Guess in 10 Junior. This game we introduced to my son around 2.5, and he's gotten way better at it though, as he's gotten closer to 3. So this is basically sort of like 20 questions, 10 questions, and how it works is, so we started this by playing on teams, which I highly recommend. It's a great, and honestly, any game, start by playing on teams. Like if your child's not quite ready, sometimes my baby will be on one of our teams, but if your child's not quite ready, playing on teams is a great way to do it, and just having them with a parent and then the other parent playing separately. Okay, but we started this playing with teams. Then you choose an animal, you don't let anybody see it, and the other people are picking these cards. And so, for example, this one, what's the habitat? And you would say, on that one, oh, it lives in the water. And then this one is, does it have any fun, like special characteristics? And you go through, no, it doesn't have any of these. And this one, so this one, I wanted to get to this before. This is like free question. You can ask whatever you want. Now that my son knows his letters, my go-to question for him is just, what letter does it start with? Because that's helpful without it like totally giving it away. So, dolphin, D. He would say D. So before he knew his letters, obviously I'd ask different questions, but that was a game changer when he knew his letters, because that made it so much easier to just ask what letter the animal starts with. So I enjoyed this game a lot. I actually really like playing this game. It's actually one of my favorites to play. So it's a great one, highly recommend. I can't believe I forgot it during all this, because it's very fun. And my husband and I both enjoy this so much. We have been talking about getting the adult version. We just don't have a ton of time to play without children, so we're like more into board games we can play as a family, but there is an adult version, and we've been interested in playing that one as well, the non-junior version. I think that's for ages, 6 or 8 plus or something. I'm assuming my son is too young now though, at 3, since he just started this one. So now I have a whole bunch of games that we introduced at 3. And I have a mix of competitive games and cooperative games. So as I mentioned with First Orchard, it is cooperative, but I have a mix of both, and we enjoy both in our home. So I will start, I'll start with this one because I'm holding it. So Hoot Owl Hoot, this is a cooperative game, and what your goal here is to get all of the chicks home before your sun rises. And so there are sun cards, and every time you choose a sun card, the sun rises, and when you choose a color, you go that many. And so it's a little bit, it is honestly kind of similar. This one's making a ton of noise. It's kind of similar to this one, in that your goal is to get done with something before something completes. And with here you can roll the dice and if you get the raven, you have to move the raven. Here, if you pick a sun card, you have to move the sun. Same idea. This one has some more strategy, which I really enjoy. I actually probably shouldn't have started with this one because this is probably the most complicated of the games. This one actually says 4+, but my 3-year-old can play it well, with us at least. I don't know if he could play it well with other 3-year-olds, but he plays with us. So one part of the strategy is that the owls can skip. If, say, this owl is on red and this owl is here, you can skip this owl if you get red and go. So that's the strategy. It's basically you're able to go further. So this is probably my favorite to play because it does have some strategy in it. A lot of these are kind of low strategy and are a lot more just working on skills, working on playing games, which is also super valuable. But this one has some strategy, and I really enjoy that game. Okay, so next up, the classic, you all know it. I mean, I'm not going to say much about Candyland. I'm not going to explain the game because I think most people know it. What I like about this one, I think Candyland is a great intro into a competitive game. A lot of these ones are cooperative, as I mentioned. Candyland is competitive, but it's so random. There's absolutely no skill required in like winning. I will play this with my 2 children. My daughter just literally pulls cards and sometimes she wins because there is no strategy. It's just randomly what you pulled. But it's good for, again, practicing turn taking and practicing that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it's frustrating. There are frustrating things about Candyland when you're at the end and then you get that candy heart and go back to the beginning. My complaint about this is someone could be at the end and then get the candy heart and go back to the beginning. So this game can take so long because of that. Whereas I feel like Hoot Owl Hoot, for example, and First Orchard are just quick and they're set to be quick, and that's something that I think is well designed with them versus this more traditional old school game. But it's fun. I think most little children like it, and it's very simple and a good intro to competitive games. Okay. Another classic I'll talk about, which is just very similar, so I'm just going to mention that because it's very similar, is Chutes and Ladders. We have Dinosaur Snakes and Ladders because it seemed more fun for us. Similar to Candyland, you go down the lava things if you get those, but you get to go up these paths if you get those. This one has a spinner that goes up to 6, so nice thing there is some counting involved. So there's a bit more versus Candyland is only thing you're counting is like to 2. And it's more color recognition. This one is a bit more complex because it has that counting aspect and number recognition on the spinner. So I like that for some of that math. And again, it's very similar to Candyland. I think introducing Candyland first is a great idea because they get used to how the board works, how you move on the board, how you take turns and all of those things. And this one is just a bit more complicated because of the counting. So I think Candyland is a great first one for that sort of board game. Okay, next I'm going to do our last sort of classic game. One note on these classic games, I'm going to link everything below, but check your local thrift store, whatever, for the classic games. I nearly ordered this one on Amazon, and the next day I was like, oh, I'm not going to order it. The next day we went to the thrift store and found it there. I was so happy because it was $1.99, so cheap, and all the pieces were there, shockingly. One thing this game does so well, though, is they give you an extra of each of the colors in case you lose them. So the newer Hi-Ho Cheerios, which ours is, come with, well, it's in here, but they come with a puzzle. And the puzzle makes it so you can play this as a cooperative game. And I had kind of thought that's what I would want to do. I'd kind of had this feeling that I like cooperative games because we're working together, it's not competitive. But what I found is with my son right now, and this really, really might change over time, he's only really played with us. He's not really competitive in that way. Like, it doesn't matter to him. It's not a big deal if he wins or loses, which is something I'm wanting to model and wanting to really instill in him as much as possible at home before he goes out and plays with other children who do care and who it's a big deal, and trying to keep it as much that way to give him that solid foundation of feeling like, oh, it's a game, but point is it's fun. Anyway, as to that, that's how he feels, and so I didn't actually feel the need to play this as a cooperative game. So we've never played it as a cooperative game. We have so many cooperative games, so we've played just the classic competitive way. So how it works, it's another spinner game. I think kids love spinners. My baby also loves spinners, so we always give her a turn to spin. They spin, the bird and the dog eat, I'm trying to remember. They eat 1 or 2 of your, I think they eat 2 of your cherries or your fruits. This, if it spills, you have to put them all back. You take the number, each time you take the number that you get if you get those. And you're harvesting them from the trees into your little buckets. It's very simple. Again, it has a counting aspect, which I like. It's only counting to the highest number you get is 4, so it's not a ton of counting, but it is practicing one-to-one correspondence, counting as you move items, to 4, so I like that, even though it's, you know, a pretty low number to count to. But that's probably my favorite. This is probably my favorite of the classic games. I kind of prefer this to Candyland, to Chutes and Ladders, Snakes and Ladders is what we have. I find it feels faster, it feels, I don't know, we enjoy it more. This is my favorite of the sort of classic games. Okay, so then a few more games that are newer, as Hoot Owl Hoot is, and I guess First Orchard is too. So I'm mixing up a bit, but this is another Count Your Chickens. This is another cooperative game. I like this one. My favorite thing about this one is it has counting that is above 10. Honestly, above, trying to even think, like Chutes and Ladders goes to 6. So most of them don't count very high. This one goes, I think, I haven't really calculated. I think the highest sort of count to is 15. But it has this addition aspect of adding 1 chicken if you land on certain spots. So I really enjoy this one, Count Your Chickens, because again, that counting aspect, the fact that it counts higher is so great when most of them don't. But it's cooperative, it's simple, you're doing a spinner, moving to where on the spinner, and moving your chickens with however many spaces you went. You move that many chickens into the coop. These ones get you, these blue spots get you extra chickens. If you roll the fox, you lose a chicken. So that's how this game works. It's fun, it's simple. My son really loves this game, and we've played it a whole lot. My only thing is those are some small pieces, and you really don't want to lose any chickens because the game becomes a lot easier if you have less little chicks. So you don't want to lose any. So, but apparently you can contact them and they will send you more or a new flock if you lose it. So that one is a great cooperative game, great for counting, all of that. And yeah, number, and like, as with everything, taking turns, cooperating, all those sorts of things, great game. Highly recommend that one. So our final game, before I just mention a couple others, but final game is this sneaky squirrel game. So this one is competitive, similar-ish to Hi-Ho Cherrio, with some twists to it. So how it works, one of the coolest things on this game is that you actually use the box itself. You use it, it's a tree, and all this stuff obviously comes out, but you use it to hold all of the acorns before you take them. This is amazing if you have a smaller child and it just keeps everything contained in the box instead of on a board. Such a smart idea. But how it works, you do the spinner, it tells you what you take, how much you can take. This one lets you steal from someone, so that's a little bit sneaky and definitely adds a complex aspect. Just know your child and how that goes and whatever with stealing from somebody. But that also works on recognition of which one has more, which has less, all of those sorts of math skills and visual reasoning skills. But if you get a color, you take that color, and what you do, we have these little tongs. So this is a fine motor activity, and you take the color in the tongs, you put it into your little log. And your goal is to fill your log with each color. So these are fun because it is fine motor work. We do a lot of this in the kitchen, a lot of tong sort of stuff. So I wouldn't say like this is like practice that he necessarily is really needing this practice on him, because we do a lot of this sort of thing, but it is a great added fine motor work. And he finds it really fun that your squirrel is actually taking. And yeah, you match into here. And then the wind, you lose all of them. The sad squirrel, you skip your turn. The sneaky squirrel, you get to steal from somebody else. So that's this game. It's a fun one. Again, a competitive game, but it's simple. And with my son, it hasn't been an issue that it's competitive. He doesn't mind if someone steals his acorns either, but we very much enjoy this game. So that's my final one here of these games. We also have a couple other things. We have a dominoes sort of set, it's dinosaur dominoes. That's fun, as well as I have a numbers bingo game, which is also fun. That one's because I had been looking for like a good language game. There wasn't really anything I found for that, but there are like bingo, alphabet bingo, if your child's interested in the alphabet. My son already knew the alphabet at the time I was buying these games, so we did numbers because that's working on counting and numbers, recognizing what cheese knows, but less so than he knows the alphabet. So he isn't as confident with that as the alphabet, so it's great for practicing that. So that's a couple other games we have, but that's these. Really do like them all. Highly recommend picking up a few of these. I'll link everything below. Yeah, I'd say start with this though. That's my top recommendation for starting. But really, they're all great. We play them all. We've been playing them all quite a bit. My son is asking to play games all the time, and we just enjoy having that as part of our day. So thank you so much for joining. Those are our games we have, some favorites, reviews. I hope that's helpful and not too overwhelming or anything, because I know it's a lot. I kind of just like threw a whole lot out there of games. So thank you so much for joining, and hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I'll be happy to answer them. Have a good day.